Staying in contact. I'm London Mitchell. These weekly get togethers focus on Northwest Ohio. We talk about issues facing our communities and bring forward individuals and organizations working to address those issues. My guest for this installment is Frank Butwin, representing the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor. Given the name of your organization, Frank, it almost sounds like you're working to preserve parts of our heritage, culture, and history that we might be losing.
That's true, and or not remembering or thinking about or not visiting and not supporting. And the corridor is kind of like a linear, almost linear from Toledo to Fort Wayne in Indiana and the surrounding counties in this river valley. It's actually the whole watershed. There are two major rivers that come together in Fort Wayne, coming from the north out of Michigan, the St. Joseph's River, and then coming out of the south, starting in Ohio, and then back into Indiana, where Fort Wayne is, the St. Mary's River. They form the Maumee River, which goes into Maumee Bay.
So, what are we talking about when we talk about heritage and the things we want to focus on?
Well, heritage includes more than history. It's it's related to us. It's we say our heritage, so it's our past. It's something that's been given to us and it's within us, and it has formed us and will probably project us into the future. So it's very important, and we need to be cognizant of it. And our mission for this is to advocate for and to protect the historical, natural, recreational, agricultural, and cultural resources of the Maumee Valley watershed while promoting their use and appreciation for current and future residents and visitors. So it says a lot, and it's a big concept. And it's all the museums, organizations, activities, historical sites in this whole area. But it's so big to kind of think about and to handle a little bit. So we focus on 7 counties, and those counties are along or close to the Maumee River. Lucas County, the geographic boundaries of Lucas County is all the way up to the Michigan line. Wood County, Fulton County, Henry County, Defiance County, Paulding County, and then in Indiana, that would be Allen County. In total, there are probably 20 plus counties that either totally or partially in the watershed, but we're focusing on these 7.
When you talk about focusing, are there certain historical sites or history that we really want to address? My thought is that there are many people who live in our area that don't really have a good handle on the history and the culture that could make us very proud of our past.
Yeah, that's true. And this was one of the last areas in Ohio that was settled, partly because of the Black Swamp and the Oak Openings region, which was, it wasn't really too much available for farming. Um, and then the Black Swamp was hard to get through. Once it was drained, it was very rich. So ditch digging was popular in this area. It had to be for the farming. The canals came into this area. It was a big railroading area going from east to west. There were some battles that happened along this area. Forts were built. There were a lot of things that happened and shaped this area, which also was significant shaping the rest of Ohio and the country.
When you talk about the ditch digging, I think some people might
Well,
say, why in the world would you focus on ditch digging?
we think about there was a machine called the Ditch Witch, and it was a machine that was developed locally because the Great Black Swamp, mostly on the south side of the river for several counties, that was good farmland. but there was a lot of water. So they had to dig the ditches, and then tiling also became popular. There was clay in the region, so there were pits that were dug and tile that was manufactured, round tile that was put together to drain the ditches. Nowadays, you have other means for tiling the farm fields, and it all eventually goes into the river and then into the lake. But this really made this a very rich farmland area in northwest Ohio.
The Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor. You must have some projects you're working on right now.
Well, we're looking at seeing what we can do to save the Roche de Boeuf Bridge, which is just a little bit south of Waterville on the outskirts. And this was an interurban bridge built and put together and started in 1908 for interurban traffic, which the interurban actually went all the way down eventually to Cincinnati, but it was a part of a larger system throughout the Midwest into Indiana, and it went up into Toledo, and it went very close to where the canal was at that went by Waterville, through Waterville. That's probably scheduled for demolition, but we're trying to see what we can do and to bring awareness to that project. There's some bridges in the Toledo area also that were important. So anything that's kind of not just a structure, but that we want to kind of not see demolished if it doesn't have to be. Maybe there's some interest in preserving some of these things so people can see what the past was like.
I've often thought that in school, history is taught by having us memorize names and dates, not necessarily focusing on cause and effect, which I think is the real value in studying history, heritage, culture. If you were to bring a visitor into the corridor, what would you like them to understand about us first, or maybe most importantly?
Well, that's kind of a hard choice, I think, but one of them I think was the canal that came through, and the first one started down in southwestern Indiana. Well, it didn't start there, but I mean, it that was the terminus, and then it was built throughout the whole length, but it came up through following the Wabash River and up through the Fort Wayne area, and then into the Maumee Valley area, right into Toledo, and went kind of real close to where the courthouse is now for Lucas County, and then on up north, and it went into the river near what we call the Manhattan area, and there were aqueducts and stations and locks all over the place, and this was a big boom to this area, and the territory of Michigan wanted it, the state of Ohio wanted it to have the terminus, and especially in Toledo, it eventually they broke it off where it crossed Swan Creek and made that the terminus, and that helped to develop what we now call the warehouse district in Toledo. And of course, if you have a big warehouse and commerce like that, then the downtown start to flourish. Then railroads come into the same area, and that's kind of what helped to make Toledo Toledo. So that was kind of an important area for this. And then another canal started down near Cincinnati and came up the Maumee River, and then it came a little bit southwest of Defiance, Ohio, and it joined that other canal that was already there, and they call that Junction. That's now the town of Junction, and that was flourishing for a while. That was another commerce area, but this helped to bring the whole area of Ohio, especially Northwest Ohio, into being.
I would assume your organization believes that understanding our past gives us a good sense of who we are today and offers a roadmap into the future.
It does, and I think that's true of any area. And the immigrants that came to build the canal and then the railroads, a lot of Irish and a lot of Germans. So the descendants of those immigrants that came to do that work, they're scattered along this area right now. So it's and then other other people came from other places in Europe and helped to make the area very rich.
As a student of history, Frank, what do you think of the efforts that are now underway by the Metro Parks, by the uh, Museum of the Great Lakes, by the Maumee Valley Historical Society in working to keep our history and our heritage alive?
Well, we have a lot of rich history. And there's more than what I've talked about. There's the time when Anthony Wayne came up with the Legion of the United States, which was the army at the time, and and a lot of other things that happened in this. And these organizations, the Toledo History Museum, Heritage Sylvania, the Walcott House Complex, and the Wood County Museum. There's just so many organizations that are having. They have festivals, they have presentations, they have museums. Fort Meigs is there. We have so many things, and they're trying to keep this alive. But like anything, there's marketing and promotion, and that's what the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor is about. We don't have our own museum. We do have some of our own where we sponsor presentations, and we do have a big reenactment that's going to be occurring down in Bowling Green or near Bowling Green at the Wood County Museum grounds. And that's going to be May 2, 3, and 4 this year. This is our 5th year for that. And we're going to have a ball, a Regency ball, and reenactors, and a lot of things there. But a lot of these organizations, we're just trying to promote them so people know about them. People have a tendency to know only about what's in their area, and maybe they don't know that there's things other just right around the corner from them. And they might like to see some of these things and visit them and experience them and learn something about the past. That's what we're trying to do.
To me, it sounds like a lot of fun, especially to either see a reenactment or even participate in one. How does somebody find out more information about the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor?
Well, we do have a website. It's Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor, all one word, .org. And that's like a lot of websites, it's a living document almost. So it's always changing a little bit. We try to keep it up to date. And we also have partners. So a lot of the partners that we have, we try to support them in particular, and they can always go to them and then get connected. They can be connected then to us and to other organizations to find out things.
Can't let you go without asking you more about the reenactment coming up in early May. What's that all about, and what role will you be playing?
Well, this is called Early Ohio on the Portage. The Portage River, one of its branches, the North Branch, goes right through the property there, and it's just feet away from where we will be at. And it eventually goes to Port Clinton and goes into the Lake Erie, where the Jet Express pulls out of. But we usually have a few thousand people there, and we're going to have a lot of reenactors. And the characters I've played in the past, I've played General Anthony Wayne and told his story. Francis Scott Key, who penned the lyrics to our current national anthem, all 4 verses. We usually only know of one, but there are 4. William Henry Harrison, who was very instrumental in this area, who came with Anthony Wayne, was at the Battle of Fallen Timbers with Anthony Wayne, came back as a general himself and commanded Fort Meigs and built that to stop the British invasion of Ohio. And then he came back a couple of decades later to Perrysburg, running for the United States president, which he won that election in 1840, became president in 1841, inaugurated, and died only 1 month later. But William Henry Harrison was instrumental in this area too. He was an Ohioan from southern Ohio. I also portray a man named Major Amos Spafford, who came to this area in 1810 to Perrysburg, what became Perrysburg. It had another name at the time, and this was even before Fort Meigs, and had his post office down on the river below Fort Meigs. And I portray him, and I talk about the postal system of the day, and what he did to survey Cleveland, Ohio, and other things that he did. So that's kind of what I do, but we have other people there, military people, people doing crafts and demonstrations, candle dipping, weaving, a lot of different things, cooking, the foods of the time. We'll have food trucks there. And people can visit the Wood County Museum while they're there as well. And it's free.
I want to thank my guest, Frank Butwin, representing the Maumee Valley Heritage Corridor. Love to hear from you. Please contact me through my webpage, londonmitchell.news. And please join us again next week as we continue staying in contact.
Previous episodes of Staying in Contact with London Mitchell are available on Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbeam, Podchaser, the Stream 419 app, Spotify, and londonmitchell.news.